Who is the modern day hero? The politician? The activist? The superstar athlete? The nonprofit leader? For David Howitt, founder and CEO of the Meriwether Group and author of Heed Your Call, the answer is clear. The hero is the entrepreneur, the person willing to launch out into the unknown and face a myriad of challenges to bring the world the elixir of life, meaning the new idea, product, or resource that has the power to shape culture, change lives, and bring more good into the world. And he has good proof. Iconic brands like Airstream, Dave's Killer Bread, Pendleton Blankets, and local legends Stumptown Coffee, Voodoo Donuts, Oregon Chai, and many more trust his guidance along the journey. In this episode of Roadcast, David breaks down the ancient story of the hero's journey and how he has designed it into a working roadmap for the entrepreneur and really anyone who feels the ache for more. That ache to leave what is familiar and to launch out into the unknown and bring something new into the world. We hope you'll find the same inspiration in the conversation we did as you listen to what is calling out to you. We good?
Right on.
Dude, I love it. We're here at the Meriwether Group with David Howitt. David, thanks for joining us on the Roadcast.
Thanks for having me.
Dude, absolutely. We are super stoked to be here. Maybe we just start with people that don't know a little bit about your story and the Meriwether Group. Maybe let's just orient them to the kind of work that you've done in the past and what you're doing now, and
Perfect.
People get a sense.
Yeah, perfect. First, thanks for coming over. This is incredibly rad. Airstream, longtime client and partner of ours. Shout out to Molly, their CMO, who's a great friend. So my journey, quickly, I grew up in Michigan and went to a little liberal arts college in Ohio and Denison University, and decided I was going to go to law school. And I wanted to try to combine the study of law with something I'm passionate about. So I love the environment, natural resources. I love the outdoors, fishing, hiking, biking, skiing. And so Lewis and Clark Northwestern School of Law has a great program. And so kind of brought me out to Portland. And on my way out here, I met Heather in Telluride, Colorado. Heather became my girlfriend and now my wife. And we posted up, and as a student in law school, we started a little business called Oregon Chai.
Yeah.
It was really Heather's creative.
What year was this?
So this would have been about 1994.
Awesome.
So this would have, was really Heather's creative brilliance. She had been in India and had traditional chai and came back to Portland and saw Starbucks start to create a change in the way the consumer approached coffee, but tea was still a mug of hot water and a bag of, Earl Grey. And so she really wanted to disrupt that and build an authentic chai brand. And so it was one of the first certified organic and certified fair trade businesses. Before that was common. And the tagline Heather came up with was Nirvana in a cup. And her thesis was, if a consumer in Iowa who might never leave her hometown, let alone go to the Himalaya, if just for a second, when she takes that mug of Oregon chai up to her mouth, she can be transported to base camp, then we've done our job.
Game
so
over.
I sort of helped on the business side, and Heather and her mom and a few other early founders worked on the brand side, and we took a little company from our kitchen to a business that did over $40 million in revenue.
Awesome.
Really profitable, really focused on creating an experience, not just selling stuff.
Yeah.
I also spent 8 years at Adidas or Adidas, depending on where you're from, in 2 different executive roles there.
Can we settle that? Or is that,
I wish I could. No, if you're from Europe, it's Adidas. If you're from the States, it's Adidas. The name of the company is based on a guy, Adi Dassler.
Ah.
And so Adi was the founder originally. And it's a cool story. He took a pair of shoes that he made in their family kind of boot company, and he put some tacks through the bottom to make the first pair of actual track spikes.
Huh.
And he gave those track spikes to Jesse Owens, who ran in them and won, but during a particularly hostile period of time in the world. So, so just that experience with Oregon Chai, with Adidas, my law background, is what led to kind of the formation of the Meriwether Group. It's been 17 years.
Awesome.
And we believe that the modern day hero is the entrepreneur. We don't really see the modern day hero as the politician or even the NGO anymore. We think that, entrepreneurs have the ability, and we'd say responsibility, to change the world. They can build culture, they can employ people, they can put amazing new products into the market that solve problems for the consumer. So we're in service to that hero, and we do it really in two ways. We have a consulting practice, but it's different than Bain or McKinsey. We don't build white papers that people don't have time to read, let alone implement. We're operators. There's a team of 12 of us. We lock arms with our clients, and we help define the opportunities and challenges, and then we actually go do the work with them. And the second thing we do is a differentiated approach to investment banking. So when you've checked the boxes and you're ready, we can help you to either sell your company outright or bring in significant growth capital, and or take some shekels off the table.
Gotcha. That makes me think of something, and I know, so for those that don't know, you wrote a book called Heed Your Call, and I want to kind of focus in maybe initially, I had a thought, but let's go here since you kind of brought it up, this idea of the hero, because we can kind of go, oh, hero, like a modern day hero, isn't that neat? Like a hero like Superman or something like that. But I know that that's a dense term that you're using that has to be unpacked. I wonder if you could just unpack a little bit about when you say hero, what are you saying?
Yeah, I really appreciate that question, actually. Yeah, so fundamental to our work here is Joseph Campbell's his work on mythology, and in really taking mythology and applying it to the world we live in now. So one of the books that Campbell wrote was The Hero with a Thousand Faces. And effectively what he said is there's one myth that's been central to every single society all through history. Doesn't matter what your spiritual religious background is, doesn't matter if you were an Inuit Eskimo or an Aboriginal Australian. This myth existed in your culture. And that's the hero's journey. And it's the basis for The Wizard of Oz, Star Wars, Avatar, and the list goes on. It's a monomyth. It's a real important story that can really help us move through our lives. So the concept is basically that we are all our own heroes. But in order to discover your sort of inner hero, you have to be willing to leave your known world, to take your journey. So let's use Dorothy from The Wizard of Oz, because I think it is a good example. So Dorothy, the movie starts, she's in Nebraska, effectively in the middle of nowhere on a dirt farm. That's her known world. We all have our known worlds. Mine was East Grand Rapids, Michigan, where we're born, the coaches and teachers we know, our family. It's not that it's bad. It's just that is a limiting factor. Each one of us has this call, right, inside of us to step out of our known worlds and take our journey. Now, some people don't. And there are myths written about that. Death of a Salesman is an example of that. They typically don't end well. But for those of us who step out of our known world, Campbell refers to that as crossing the threshold. So Dorothy is lifted out of Kansas by a tornado, and boom, she's on her journey. She's in Oz. The first thing people experience when they leave their known world is a lot of euphoria. I did it. I left Grand Rapids. I'm living in Portland, Oregon. Look at that mountain. Look at these rivers. These people are so chill and different. Wow, I'm on my path. That's almost always pretty short-lived. And then there's this abyss. Right? This moment where the witch in a puff of smoke appears and says, I'm going to get you, And Dorothy's a little girl from Kansas with a dog in a basket. She's not equipped to fight a witch. So then you do what you have to do. You start walking your path, right? And so for Dorothy, it's literally a path. It's the yellow brick road. And along the yellow brick road, she meets her mentors and guides. The Tin Man, the Scarecrow, the Lion. And they're there to help her on her journey. It's her journey. They can't take it for her, but they can help her to discover key attributes about herself. If you remember, the Tin Man was about brains or intellect. The Lion's about courage. And the Scarecrow is the Scarecrow's brains and the Tin Man's heart.
That's right.
Right? So for all of us, we step on our journey and our path, and we hope to meet our mentors and guides. And they're there to help us to learn about ourselves. And then, we hopefully in this life reach what Joseph Campbell recalls calls our defining moment. So for Dorothy, she thought her defining moment was going to be going to see the great and all-powerful wizard.
Mm-hmm.
One thing for your listeners, there never is a great and all-powerful wizard, ever. So, she gets there, she finds out there isn't this wizard that's going to sort of save her. And one of her other mentors, Glinda, says, silly girl, all you had to do is click your heels together 3 times. You're the hero of your own journey. You've always had the power. The power is yours. You just didn't know it.
Yeah.
Right? So that's kind of the purpose of the journey, is that it enables us to get closer to our truth, to our authentic selves.
Yeah.
So in an entrepreneurial world, it may be that you're stuck in the known world, your shit job, or the place you hate working, or the career path that someone else told you needed to take. I went and became a lawyer and ended up at a big law firm because I thought that's what I was supposed to do, until I realized I'm not happy. This isn't what I want to do. And so I had to step out of that known world, deal with the abyss, and go find another path. So we meet entrepreneurs on their journey, right?
Yeah.
And we try to be the Scarecrow and the Tin Man and the Lion for them.
Yeah.
And we've had the great fortune
That's
of
so
doing
good.
that with folks like Dave Dahl from Dave's Killer Breads, and Dwayne from Stumptown, and Cat Daddy and Trace from Voodoo Donuts, and Lenny from Handles. And it's amazingly rewarding, and I'm just incredibly grateful to do this work.
Yeah.
And here, you guys are in an Airstream, so I think you'll appreciate this. So this was a collaboration we put together between Full Sail Ale out in Hood River and Airstream. So they did the Full Sail Airstream IPA, which was an unfiltered IPA. That Airstream was involved in the tasting process, and they've got Stumptown.
Oh, we got to get some of that. That's
Shy.
so good. Yeah, there's the classic, with that classic purple and yellow.
Yeah, and Dave's Killer Breads, Little Big Burger, Voodoo Donuts.
Oh, Little Big Burger, I didn't know that.
Yeah, we helped them to grow and then sell. And then you see 2 companies we've worked with, Rogue and Pendleton. We did a collaboration between those. So they did a Pendleton Ale, and we also did an Airstream Pendleton edition. So it's Airstreams made by Pendleton inside, all of their home decor, which was very successful.
That's super cool.
This is my wife's new company, Taiwala, which is a lot like Oregon Chai in terms of the business model, but it is a Thai tea as opposed to Indian. This is a Pendleton Voodoo Donuts limited edition blanket.
Come on.
So if you think about bringing like 2 unlikely brands, Pendleton's a pretty conservative.
We got to hold this up.
Yeah, pretty conservative company. But we made their blankets with the Voodoo Donuts. The magic is in the hole, and all of their icons and little donuts. And then down here we've got the Pendleton logo, and then the limited edition. This is number 76 out of 250.
So talk about these collaborations like Airstream and Pendleton, Voodoo. Like what's
it's
some of the...
one of the things we do. We love bringing together the power of different brands, and instead of surprising and delighting the consumer, where they might not expect 2 different brands to show up, but then when they see it, they're like, wow, that's really cool. I think it's just an interesting way to bring different brand attributes and brand promises together, and kind of supercharge it. Great way to put it. So really fortunate to have been involved with a lot of the really iconic brands from the region, and increasingly outside of the region, companies all over the country. Our kind of criteria are, we're not technologists, so it's consumer focused stuff.
Gotcha. Yeah.
And we really want to see brands that are authentic, where there's a founder, or the founder has imprinted a really important in the DNA of the brand. Disruptive. So not really interested in just another bag of green tea. It's got to somehow change the day, change the game. And when we say disruptive, we really mean either creating a new category like chai was, or looking at categories that are tired and stale, that are in need of innovation. So we want to see some level of authenticity, some level of disruption, and or being iconic in what it is you do. Airstream's iconic. Pendleton's not particularly disruptive, but it's deeply authentic, and it's very iconic. So we look for some combination of those qualities.
I want to stay there with the entrepreneur as the hero.
Yep. Okay. I can give some examples.
Give some examples, and I'm also just like, why in your mind is the entrepreneur the hero right now? Not because you said it's not politics, it's not,
Right. Okay. So, why we feel that the entrepreneur really is the modern day hero is, I'm going to give you some examples versus talking in hypotheticals. So let's look at Dave Dahl. Dave had spent 15 years in prison, 3 5-year stints.
Yeah.
And finally,
I love this partly because I eat Dave's Killer Bread all the time.
It's so good.
It's amazing.
It's so good.
Yeah.
So he gets out of prison after his 3rd stint, and he finally gotten the treatment, mental health treatment like he needed. And he had a vision for creating a new type of bread. His family owned a very small bakery out in Milwaukee, Oregon. So he came back to his family, who were, frankly, had come close to writing him off just after all of the stuff he had done to them and to himself. And he said, give me the 3rd shift. I want to start trying to make this bread. And he was selling it at the Portland State Farmers Market when I met him. And what he had done is he had disrupted, pun intended, a stale category. The bread category was stale. Brown bread and white bread in a sea of wrappers with really no differentiation. And Dave's new, process and his brand was so deeply authentic. It was about redemption. It was about, making things that are organic and covered in seeds and sustainable taste good. And it does over $1 billion in revenue now. 40% of their staff are ex-cons.
Oh, that's
so again, modern day hero,
good. Yeah.
right? Second chance opportunities for people who have been incarcerated to come out and get real jobs. They are 100% certified organic. They're vegan. They source their ingredients from local purveyors like Bob's Red Mill. So he has made a huge impact on society and on the world, not to mention the millions and millions of homes with kids who are begging their parents to buy Dave's Killer Breads, which is a much healthier, better for you product.
Yeah.
So, healing people one slice of bread at a time, right?
That's a great illustration. I think of it's funny because it reaches so far. Their white bread, it's like Dave's Killer, not white bread.
Right.
Where you have all the enrichment, or it's not taken out. It's really high quality.
That's right.
So
Heather, with Oregon Chai, we needed to source a lot of clove. And clove, organic fair trade clove, was hard to find. It's a little island in Indonesia where they had been cutting down their trees to basically make revenue for the small number of people who lived on the island. And Oregon Chai and Heather said, look, stop cutting your trees down, plant organic clove, and we'll buy every clove you can grow from you. And the island, instead of being deforested, now smells like amazing cloves, and there's a new schoolhouse and a more robust economy. And, it's that type of thing that entrepreneurs can do as heroes. Change the culture in your office, be inclusive in your hiring, treat people fairly and with love and integrity. That vibrates out, right? And so we really believe that the entrepreneur can change the world.
Yeah, those are great pictures, and it's super clear when you put it that way. And I don't know, it's so healthy just to not vilify the game that way, and just going like the benefits are so huge. So a couple things. Oregon Chai, one, which is amazing, wildly successful. And then you say things like Stumptown, and this is kind of iconic brands in the Northwest and now beyond. Dave's Killer Bread,
for sure.
And I know there's a laundry list of other ones. I want to connect it back to this. In your book, you have a quote that I think you attribute to your grandfather. Him saying, "Genius is nothing more than knowing what the collective conscious wants before they know they want it."
Yes.
And I think I'd love to hear you talk about. Seems like you have that spidey sense, or at least with Oregon Chai, but then connecting to these other brands and sniffing that out, and kind of the role of I even think as designers, right? Designers are constantly channeling that same energy in terms of knowing what people want or the taste they're looking for before it's there.
Absolutely. Great question. Yeah, I'm smiling for a few reasons. One, that that was my grandfather, and he was a big believer that intuition is incredibly powerful, and that sometimes we kind of pack it away, and instead, we use only our intelligence. Einstein, and I'll bastardize it, but basically has a quote about how intuition is the leader and our intellect should be the faithful servant, not the other way around. Yeah, so I am not a Dave Dahl or a Dwayne or a Heather. I am not that person that gets that hit on the collective consciousness product or service. I'm in service to those people. So my dharma,
That's
my
great.
path. Yeah, thanks, man. Is I want to serve those people. But yes, I mean, every one of us has the opportunity to tap into the collective consciousness. And this sounds a little woo-woo, but if we just quiet our minds long enough here and there, you can sort of, tap into kind of where that vibe is and where it's going. Now, some people figure that out, what the collective consciousness wants 30 minutes before the collective consciousness knows. That can be a problem, because then you got to stick around. We had a hemp milk company that we invested in and we were really excited about, but we were probably like 3 or 4 years too early. Because hemp was still considered marijuana, and we couldn't grow hemp in the United States, so we had to import hemp seeds from Romania and Manitoba.
That's got to be so frustrating. It's
really frustrating and really hard, right? And that and it's all part of this, right? Timing. There's a line. You have to align a lot of dots, right?
So you want to be 30 minutes ahead. You don't want to be.
You don't want to be 3 hours or 3 days or 3 years, right? And so, it's about kind of aligning, with the zeitgeist of consciousness at the right time, at the right moment. And entrepreneurs, the ones we work with, it's sort of like part intelligence and part magic, and when you bring that sort of left brain, P&L, operations, legal, finance, margin, supply chain, and you marry it with the right brain, story, authenticity, heart, soul, design, beauty, and culture. When you bring these things together, that's where the magic happens. If you're just right brain, you're an art gallery and you need a benefactor. If you're just left brain, you're selling widgets and you're competing on price. But when you can become the art gallery that's selling the product and marry the two in a powerful way, that's when things get really fun. And that's what we look to do.
Gosh, you guys do it so well too.
Thanks,
I think that gap, as you said, between commerce and then the heart's desires, which it feels like that the heart's desires type of language is just left out of the conversation. So it feels, one of the things I was grateful for in the book is that you're bringing it back to be like, we've got, right brain, left brain, we've got to marry these two together. And it's almost give permission to people, like,
I think
it's
it is
okay to pay attention to your heart.
I think it is permission. We refer to it simply as the power of and. Right? You can have tattoos and drive a really nice German car, right? You can meditate, smoke weed, love art, enjoy nature, and build kick-ass businesses that make a lot of money. This idea that, of ore, we call it the tyranny of ore, is not going to get us societally to the future, right? We have to integrate. Yoga, the word yoga just means union, right? We have to integrate. People talk about work-life balance as if they're two different people. Well, I have work and then I have life. You just have life, so you might as well try to bring some of that special right brain stuff into what you're doing in the work world. And one, you're going to have more fun, but two, you're going to be more successful. Right? So, the Dalai Lama, who I have,
Why is that so hard to, why is that? I know I'm getting off.
I can tell you. It's beaten out of us at an early age. So if you ask a second grade class in school of 20, how many of you want to be artists? Like 15 hands will go up in the air. If you ask that same class in 6th grade, how many of you want to be artists? You'll get 2. Because we're told this lie. We're told that, hey, if you want to be an artist or a poet or a healer or, involved somehow in that more beauty side, then prepare to have a great life, but be broke. You'll sleep on a futon, have 8 roommates, you won't have a passport, you'll have a medical marijuana card, and you'll eat at food carts, and, you'll be happy, but you'll be broke. Or we're told you can go be an executive or a CEO or, a lawyer or a doctor. You'll have tons of money and nice cars and a house in Black Butte, and you'll go to Kona like you just did.
Hey.
And but you won't have purpose and meaning. You won't have good relationships. You won't be in touch with culture or nature. And I just think it's bullshit, right? I mean, so the Dalai Lama, again, I've huge respect for. He said the world doesn't need more executives or CEOs or titans of business. The world needs more poets and healers and artists. And with all respect, I disagree. The world needs more CEOs, executives, and titans of business who are also poets and healers and artists.
Right?
We can be all of those things, right? And I think Portland, at its best, which unfortunately is not this moment, is an and place. Is a place where we do have more permission than many places to flex both muscles.
Yeah.
And one of the things I've loved about being here. But yeah, it is about the power of and.
Yeah, I love it.
Here's our power of and. And we wanted the office to be really obviously a highly functional office where you can get stuff done, but also, again, embracing that and, like a very cool, chill, almost zen-like feel.
It captures it for sure. Because I think this is such a fantastic theme, and there is a lot of counterintuitiveness to, what you're talking about. And one of those things that came through in the book as well is the idea of surrender. And I think surrender is one of these things that is, one, it's just not a word you hear very often in the business world or even the design world. Like, hey, a big part of this is going to be surrender. And everyone's like, well, I'm not, who's down for surrender?
Right.
And yet this counterintuitive nature to like embrace it. And again, this is this marrying, a lot of what you do, the marrying of spirituality, business, life, just trying to say, hey, we can integrate this thing. It doesn't have to be like this either or type of scenario.
Yes.
So anyways, all that to say, I'd love for you to talk about like, what does it look like? What's the importance of surrender?
Yeah. It's amazing. Yeah. So, we're taught that surrender means, waving the white flag, failing. I lost. Someone got the better of me. It could not be more different than that. Mm-hmm. Surrendering is letting go of your need to control an outcome. And when we feel like we control the outcome, we effectively block out whatever word you want to use, the universe, God, energy, source, doesn't matter to me. We block that out because our ego says, I got this. I don't need any outside creative sort of assistance. And so the Buddhists believe that when you surrender, when you let go of the need to control the outcome, that's really where possibility and creativity are at their absolute highest.
So good.
So the abyss in the hero's journey, when the witch appears and you're sort of like, oh shit, I quit my job at Nike to go start this company. I was all stoked about it, but now I got to figure out how to pay my mortgage, put my kid through school. I have no idea how to get this product to market. I may have really made a mistake, and you're sort of dropped to your knees. You're like you're just in the abyss. It's at that moment that opportunity is the highest, because you can invite in a co-creation.
Yeah.
You can co-create at that point. It's when we hold on to the need to control every piece of an outcome that we lose creative energy. We lose our abilities.
That's that razor's edge.
It's the edge.
When
It's
you're
the
dealing
edge.
with designers, entrepreneurs, creatives, of outcomes are important.
Absolutely.
And you're going like, we're driving for outcomes. And then this introduction of, hey, it might be that the way to get to your outcome is through surrender. It just is a different...
Incredibly well said. That's exactly it. It's the razor's edge, right? And you have to be able to embrace the ability, the faith that you're going to get to a better outcome if along the process you surrender to the possibility that you don't know or control every element. You invite in other sources to sort of co-create with you.
Yeah.
And, our experience is that's where you find the best results. I mean,
magic.
you know, in the book, Heed Your Call, that we outline 11 tools. And, you know, I didn't feel like the world needed another business book. There are whole aisles of business books at Powell's. And I didn't really feel like the world needed another book on sort of spirituality. But I hadn't seen one that connected the two.
One pathway I kind of want to just chase down. It can be a rabbit trail. I think you know what's coming to mind right now is maybe it's not unique, but I think, you know, being reflective enough early on in the conversation. You said, "Hey, I'm not the one that has the read on the collective unconscious, but I am there to serve those people," and I think. In a culture where it's like everybody wants to, you know, pick your whatever you want to have. If it's a basketball analogy or a football analogy or a food cart analogy, you know, everybody wants to be Koi Fusion or whatever it is.
Right.
Everyone wants to be that, and just I don't know what it takes to kind of recognize like, hey, this is actually my spot, and I'm actually happier here. I don't know.
Yeah,
you know?
no, I know what you mean. It's a big question. Like, what is my purpose?
Yeah.
Right. What is my unique soul here to do, right? And the whole concept behind mythology and why we have mythology is it helps us to wrestle with those questions. You know, why am I here? You know, these are big questions, right? And so we can look to archetypes and we can look to mythological stories to help us think them through. You know, I think it's probably the most important question any one of us can ask. You know, what is this one special life meant to be, and how can I try to be authentically in alignment with that? I don't have any, you know, specific secret tool that sort of will help you unlock that, other than to say we all have it. Your consciousness wants to tell you what it is. Often when the universe is calling to tell you, it's getting a busy signal because you're too busy doing something else that someone else told you were supposed to do. So the best advice I can give is try to just take a little bit of time every day. For some people, it might be walking in nature. For some people, it might be a seated meditation, where you just allow that all-knowing, neutral, witnessing observer in you to give you some direction, you know, and scan your body. Like, your body can't lie to you. Your brain can lie. Your brain is a complex, you know, a complex thing that can tell you a lot of stories. But your body doesn't have that capacity. So if you walk into work every day and your body feels filled with acid and your chest feels compressed and your throat is constricted and your shoulders are hunched up, and as you're pushing the elevator button or turning the key in the door, you feel like you want to puke, I don't really care what your brain's telling you. You're probably not on your path.
There's something to pay attention to.
You know, and everyone has those days, but if that's consistently what's going on, you know, you're probably in the wrong place. You know, and so if you give permission to allow a little quiet and to do some body scans and to feel like what brings you joy, what makes you come alive, you know, what makes you feel like when all of a sudden you look at your watch and you're like, oh my God, it's 3:00. I thought it was like 10 a.m. Like, how did that happen? Like, time ceases to be linear. You know, people refer to it as flow state. You know, when you're in flow, you know, find those things where that happens more frequently and do those things.
Love it. It's such good advice. It's super helpful. This is a road trip. We are cruising around. We're going to head down the West Coast here pretty soon. Do you have a favorite road trip that you've been on?
Yeah, wow, that's a great question. Yeah, so the one that immediately comes to mind, because it was just profound for me on my journey, graduated from college, had spent most of my life in the Midwest, and with a couple buddies, kind of out of the blue, we decided to fly into Boulder, Colorado, fly into Denver and get to Boulder, and then jump on our bikes and ride our bikes to Telluride. And we were wearing, you know, flip-flops and baseball hats and mountain bikes with knobby tires. We had no clue. Like, we didn't have panniers and fancy road bikes and and we were in Patagonia shorts and tees. And that journey, that summer of being in the Colorado Rockies and in those mountain towns with crystal blue cold nights and warm mountain days, swimming in rivers, catching fish, camping, the people we're meeting along the way.
I'm like literally ready to go right now.
Yeah,
Like,
it opened my eyes and my heart, you know, and it was a really important journey for me. So that's a big one in terms of road trips. You know, the last one I'll give you is last summer when there was all sorts of fires going on and COVID, and you know, the air was all, you know,
gosh, what
bad.
a zoo last year.
I jumped into a car with a great buddy of mine, and we drove from Portland out to Montana and just river hopped. I love fly fishing, and we just we had a week where we just sort of camped along riverbanks and fished, and we're under, you know, Big Sky, Montana, and you know, just getting road trips that involve getting back into nature are what it's about. Doesn't matter if it's a beach or a river or a mountain, but getting off the beaten path, getting back into nature, sleeping on the ground, sleeping under the sky, that stuff lights me up.
It feels like everyone this summer we just need to call a collective timeout and go camp. Like the
that's
whole
right.
of it, like the whole city.
Oh, that would be
like,
wonderful.
Just like, you know what?
Yeah.
Let's get back out there. Like, it's just, we've been
It's
in
healing.
our houses,
Yep.
you know.
Absolutely. We get really separated from our earth, you know, and even, you know, silly, but even like just going outside barefoot sometimes and just putting your feet in the grass, you know, putting your hand on a big tree and just tapping back into that.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
Okay, the follow-up is, and this is, I'm putting you on the spot a little bit, but who would you want to go talk to? Like, hey, I'm going to carve out an hour, you know, designer, creative.
Wow.
Like, hey, maybe we'll go chase him down. Who's somebody you'd love to just...
Yeah, so on the business side, you know, the first name that comes up for me is Richard Branson.
Okay, yeah.
You know, I think he's
a big one, yeah,
he's been a really, you know, interesting entrepreneur on a journey, you know, very passionate man, very into exploration.
Yeah.
You know, not just in terms of his business ventures, but, you know, going up in hot air balloons and, you know, kind of an adventurer.
Yeah.
And I love that juxtaposition between kind of success in the business world and also, you know, deep experience in the natural world.
Yeah, I love that.
He's got a little island called Necker Island.
Yeah.
I'd love to go, you know, hang out on that island with him and just learn more about him. So that would probably be, you know, the person that first comes to mind on the business side. I'm sure there are others, you know, more on the kind of spiritual, religious, you know, I mean, it would be nice to sit down with the Buddha or Jesus, you know, and tap into that. But that's probably not going to happen.
That would be... I was not expecting that.
Yeah.
That's so good.
Yeah.
Buddha. Next episode's Buddha, and then we're going to hit Jesus.
And we'll do Jesus, yeah.
And then we'll keep cruising.
Right on.
That's so good. All right, last one, just for posterity's sake. So I wanted to be positive. I've already mentioned iconic brands in the Northwest you've worked with. For many people, it's like they're heart brands, you know. Like, I drink Stumptown Coffee every morning.
Right.
I've tried other things. Like, there's things that are just special about, you know, and they're brands that you've helped build and support and serve in the city that you've loved, that you moved up here. And it is this, you know, I don't want to overblow it, but it's a difficult time.
Yeah.
But someone that's, you know, connected to the city at a heart level, like, what are some of your hopes for the future?
Yeah.
What would you like to see? Or, you know what I'm
saying? Yeah, I know where you're going. Yeah, you know, when I moved here 31 years ago, you know, Portland lit me up, and it has served me and my family really well. And it's sad to see kind of where things are right now. I sort of feel like Portland's in the abyss. And so if you look at it that way, then you can be optimistic, because you can sort of say, well, you know, this is abyss, and when you're in the abyss, possibility is high and creativity is high. I think we need to see leadership step up and use this abyss moment to co-create results, right? And to use the power of and. So it's not just government or just business, but it's private-public solutions. It's not just about, you know, the left, you know, or the right, but it's about human beings. It's about love, and it's about connection. And, you know, I think there's really a leadership moment for Portland to step out and redefine its brand. Like, you talk about heart brands. Portland's a brand, right? Yeah. But to me, this, you know, keep Portland weird is not a brand promise that works anymore. You know, we need to really think about what is Portland's brand? What is our brand promise? What do we want to stand for? What do we want to sort of vibrate, you know, within our community? And I feel like as much as it's a time of great suffering in Portland, it's a time where with the right leadership, that new brand promise can be formulated, and it could become a beacon for other cities who can look at us as, wow, they took this moment in time and elevated.
Yeah.
I don't know what that is
Yeah.
at this moment, but I know it's there.
Yeah.
And I'm hopeful.
That's well said. Yeah. It's really well said. And I think that it's to frame it in the hero's journey is really helpful of going like, right, it's coming back to these principles, like out of the abyss comes this opportunity and creativity.
Yeah.
So
no mud, no lotus. You can't, have the lotus flower without
being
some
in
mud,
that just
right? So
darkness.
Yeah. So
that's great.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for,
man, thank
and this
you.
has been huge. Really appreciate you being on the Roadcast
my honor.
with us.
I'm grateful to be here with you guys.
Even just to catch a slice of conversation midday, sunny in Portland.
Rad.